Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And we got an interesting week of football here as Week 16 comes to its conclusion. So, without further, let's get right. But first, before we get into that, we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is BetStamp. Now, BetStamp is not a traditional sports betting website. It does not offer you one money line. It will actually offer you many money lines from a variety of sources and other betting websites. So that way you can make the most for every bet you make. So make sure when you download it from the App Store, or if you use the link in the description below to the website, you will use code CFL Central, so that way they know that you're coming from us and you're saving money. So that way you can make the most out of your bets and get the biggest possible payout instead of whatever just your app will offer you. So thanks again to BetStamp for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. So we got our first game of the week, which is the Hamilton TigerCats against the Montreal Alouettes. Montreal wins this game 23-16. I thought Hamilton might be able to continue that upwards trend after that big win over the Bombers. Not quite. Had a solid game overall, coming close, but not being able to defeat the Alouettes here. Alouettes play a pretty consistent game, very, very tight. First quarter with no team getting any points as a result of that. Really just stuck kind of in midfield there. 0-0 after the first. And then Hamilton really kind of got the first jump in this game in that second quarter, putting up 10 points. They would only then get a field goal in both the third and fourth. So Montreal was good at being able to keep them to that. But Montreal's second quarter is really where they shined here. You know, I think it's going to be really key come playoffs, like a team that Montreal, you know, when they play against a team that, you know, Hamilton's been a bit weaker this year. You know, obviously they had that massive win against the Bombers, but you got to be able to put up a very strong performance, that solid 60. Not saying they were bad, but against a weaker team, you would expect more points in that first half of the game there as well. Walter Fletcher would have a solid game at running back. He would get, I think, 45 yards, average about 5.5 roughly per carry. So not bad. Geno Lewis, pretty solid on the receiver end of the things. He would get 7.4 yards on the average. And Tim White for the TigerCats with quite a game. He got 6 receptions, ran for 105 yards, 17.5 on average. Very solid game for him. And overall, just a solid game of football coming out of our Eastern Division. So not much to complain about there. You know, I got to imagine that the Alouettes fans got to be happy that they're now even closer to breaking even 6-7, still second in the East, really kind of solidifying themselves there. And then our next game of the week is going to be, was the Toronto Argonauts versus the Ottawa Redblacks. Now, this is a game where I chose Ottawa on a hunch, to be honest. I was kind of hoping that they might be able to pull something together, but Toronto really solidified themselves. Not that just that they were better than Ottawa, but that they deserve this first place spot in the East. Now, 8-5, which is, you know, very good. Like I said, the records in the East are not great. So having a very, very solidified winning record as your leading team in that division is key. So Bethel Thompson would have 245, would average 8.4 yards per play, or per completion, I should say. Threw for 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 3-to-1 ratio. That's pretty good. Can't really complain about it. Nick Arbuckle had a bit of a weaker game. Didn't give as many yards. Got only 231. The main thing there is, though, threw for 0 touchdowns and threw 2 interceptions. So not what you'd hope from Nick Arbuckle. And the receiving core had an okay game. Nate Bahar had a solid game with 119. However, you know, you'd expect some of those other receivers, like your Jalen Acklins, like your Darvin Adams, to really be stepping up and performing, to be the top of your receiver core, and they just kind of weren't that. And it was just Ottawa really collapsing a few times, but just utterly, like, for example, I'll put it this way. First quarter, Toronto gets nothing. Second quarter, 18 points. They collapsed in that quarter, and in a very short period of time, just one quarter, Toronto was able to do so much damage. So it's one of those things where that's when the defense needs to step up for Ottawa, and that's where they really got to get the ball rolling, because they only got 6 points that quarter, which if you're going to be giving up 18, you better be putting up a hell of a lot more than that. And it was one of those things where Ottawa tied that first quarter and then got outscored every single quarter of this game. You can't really win a game like that. So not much to say. Toronto stomped Ottawa 45-15. Good game for the Argonauts. And that brings us into our last game where Calgary gets a little bit of redemption here, wins 25-11 over the BC Lions. Calgary now getting closer to BC, 9-5 record. BC is 9-4, played one less game. Excuse me. But yeah, this is a game where BC, in a nutshell, was just a big late bloomer. I mean, this is another game of Vernon Adams Jr. not getting what he wants there. Now, one of the things that I did notice was simply the utter collapse of his pocket and how he is not able to scramble like a guy like Zach Collaros. He was just he was being forced out of his pocket. Didn't get enough passes that he could make from there. And when he did have to move, he just simply was not able to make those completions when being forced to scramble, which is something that maybe a guy like Vernon Adams Jr. should be working on, hopefully this offseason. Because I think that these kind of games come crunch time where, we're really starting to see where these teams are going to line up come playoffs, where you're going to be playing under a lot of pressure. Seeing your weaknesses in a time like that will be key to, helping you learn moving forward. So I hope he does that. But yeah, BC would not get a point the entire first half of this game. Ouch, that's going to hurt for the Lions, especially against a team like Calgary that has quite a strong defense. If you're going to give yourself only half a game of football to be putting up points, don't expect to win the game. Calgary overall was pretty consistent all game long. It was very clear they were trying to hold this to a low-scoring game. They succeeded with that, got 25 points up with two pretty solid quarters and then two ones where, they either tied or they got more points. So pretty much Calgary won almost every quarter of this game. And, Calgary deserved to win, and they got it. Malik Henry had a really solid game as well, averaging almost 10 yards per carry. And per reception, I should say. Sorry. And yeah, there's not much to complain about here if you're a Stamps fan. It was a pretty good week of football. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And stay tuned for my Week 17 preview coming out soon. And I'll see you guys next time.